What happens when a liberal professor tries to publicly embarrass a student she dislikes, only to realize she's just challenged a true genius? And not just any genius, but an officially recognized prodigy with an IQ of 170. Barron Trump. Believe me, by the time the story is over, you'll be left speechless. Let me take you through exactly what happened. But first, drop a comment letting me know where you're tuning in from. At one of the most prestigious universities in the U.S., Dr. Linda Markham's calculus class had a reputation for two things: her sharp mathematical intellect and her increasingly obvious political bias. That morning, as students entered the lecture hall, there was already a certain tension in the air. Instead of the usual intricate equations covering the whiteboard, a simple yet bold message was displayed. Today's topic: redefining academic priorities. Seated quietly at the back of the room was a tall young man, dressed impeccably in a black suit. Most of his classmates didn't know him personally. He was the type to keep to himself. Yet everyone recognized his name: Barron Trump. What they didn't realize, though, was that behind his composed demeanor was a level of mathematical brilliance that was about to leave them all stunned. Dr. Markham began her lecture, but something about her felt different today. Her usual poised stride now carried an unmistakably confrontational energy. As she moved across the room, "Mathematics," she declared, while significant, must make room for more urgent social discussions. Several students shifted uneasily in their seats. As she elaborated on her newly balanced curriculum, a single hand rose in the air. "Barron's." Dr. Markham's gaze tightened slightly. She hadn't expected anyone to challenge her today. What started as a simple discussion about curriculum adjustments soon revealed something much deeper. "In today's world," she asserted, her tone carrying a slight condescension, "we must focus less on abstract theories and more on the practical applications of social justice." The room grew heavier as she clicked to the next PowerPoint slide. But instead of calculus content, the screen now displayed statistics on gender representation in STEM fields. Her eyes scanned the room, landing on specific students as she continued. "Some of you," she remarked pointedly, "need to recognize that your privileged status in this class isn't necessarily a reflection of merit." Barron's hand remained raised, calm, steady, patient. Students glanced at him, then at one another. A few exchanged subtle nods, grateful, perhaps, that someone was finally addressing the obvious. But before acknowledging him, Dr. Markham pressed forward, her tone sharpening as she advanced to the next slide. "For example," she continued, "family wealth and connections often create unfair advantages in education." The message was crystal clear. Some students turned to observe Barron's reaction, but he remained composed, his hand still raised. At last, after what felt like an eternity, Dr. Markham could no longer ignore him. "Yes, Mr. Trump," she said, her voice laced with both exasperation and amusement. "Do you have something to add to our discussion on privilege and education?" The room fell completely silent. Everyone knew about Barron's flawless test scores, his quiet dedication to his studies. They had seen him stay late in the library, helping classmates who struggled. But now, as he slowly lowered his hand and prepared to speak, no one could have predicted what was about to unfold. His voice was calm, respectful. "Dr. Markham," he began, "I believe calculus is essential in understanding both theoretical and applied sciences. Many of us enrolled in this advanced course to deepen our mathematical knowledge." He paused briefly. "Wouldn't reducing core curriculum content ultimately disadvantage all students, regardless of their background?" Several students nodded in agreement, but Dr. Markham's expression turned rigid. "Mr. Trump," she said, emphasizing his last name, "perhaps you would benefit more from recognizing how privilege influences education. Not everyone has access to private tutors or prestigious preparatory schools." What happened next caught everyone off guard. Instead of reacting defensively, Barron simply smiled gently. "You're right about one thing, Professor," he replied. "I've been fortunate in my education. That's precisely why I believe we have an obligation to uphold rigorous academic standards so that everyone has the opportunity to reach their full potential. Dr. Markham's face hardened. And you think you know more than your professor about maintaining academic standards? Her voice dripped with sarcasm. Tell me, what exactly qualifies you as an authority on mathematical education? I'm not claiming to be an authority, Barron said, unfazed. I'm just a student who loves mathematics and understands its ability to transcend political divides. He gestured toward the blank whiteboard. Instead of debating privilege, couldn't we use this time to explore the intricate beauty of calculus? The room fell silent. Dr. Markham's eyes narrowed as she slowly approached the whiteboard, marker in hand. Very well, Mr. Trump, she said, her voice smooth yet sharp. Since you're so passionate about mathematics, let's put that enthusiasm to the test. She began writing, her hand moving swiftly and precisely. As the equation formed, students audibly reacted. Even the most confident among them felt an uneasy weight settle in their stomachs. This wasn't just any calculus problem. This was an advanced multivariable integration problem, one that would challenge even graduate-level students. But what Dr. Markham didn't realize was that she had just set something in motion, something that would change everything. When we allow our biases to cloud our thinking, we shut ourselves off from opportunities for growth. The dean cleared his throat. Mr. Trump, while your mathematical talents are undeniably impressive, you need to understand that. Before he could finish, a voice rang out from the back of the room. It was Michael Chen, a scholarship student who rarely spoke up, that we should study less math because of someone's political beliefs. More students began rising from their seats. I came here to learn calculus, another called out, not to be lectured about so-called privilege. Dr. Markham's carefully maintained authority over the classroom was beginning to slip through her fingers. But before she could lose complete control, Barron did something unexpected. Professor, he said, his voice steady, just firm enough to calm the growing unrest. Your expertise in mathematics is undeniable. I've gained valuable insight from your technical instruction. Maybe we could focus on that instead? I'd be happy to assist other students after class, combining your theoretical knowledge with hands-on problem solving. His proposal lingered in the air, offering Dr. Markham a chance to regain control, while also genuinely improving the class. The dean observed closely, fully aware that this moment could either spiral into a PR disaster or transform into something unexpectedly constructive. Dr. Markham turned to Barron, then shifted her gaze toward her students, really looking at them, perhaps for the first time. What she saw in their faces forced her to confront a choice, one that would change everything.